DUIs, hey, they do happen, but when does a DUI become a felony? Well, that takes us to this week's case. It involves a man, Jim Jankowski, up in the state of Wisconsin. Oh, it was a wintry December day. Jim, said, I got to warm up a little bit, stops, has a couple of brandies, and on the way home he is picked up, and turns out his blood alcohol is over the legal limit of 0.08. He is, in fact, charged. Next day, he's talking to a buddy, and he says, I'm concerned. I've had prior DUIs, and I think I might be eligible for a felony here, and that could really wreck up my life. Friend says, well, how many have you had? And he said, well, I've had 4. He said, really? Okay. Well, were they a while ago? Yeah, they were a while ago. Well, if they were a while ago, you shouldn't be concerned. Well, it turns out Jim is then prosecuted for a felony DUI because, while he said it was a while ago, it was less than 5 years ago. And under Wisconsin law, if you have multiple DUIs and the last one is less than 5 years old, you can become eligible for prosecution for a felony DUI. What's the difference? What's the difference between a felony and a misdemeanor? The majority of DUIs in most states are misdemeanors. Misdemeanors result in a fine and usually jail time in a county jail for up to a year. Usually it's much less. But a felony results in a bigger fine and hard prison time of multiple years. Can really mess up your life. So obviously you don't want to go there. So what are the factors that determine whether or not it's a misdemeanor or a felony? Well, it's going to vary from state to state, but there are some common threads that determine the difference between a felony and a misdemeanor in terms of prosecution. What are they? We've already heard about it. Prior convictions. It's going to vary from state to state, but if you've got prior convictions, you need to be concerned with the fact that you might be looking at a felony. 2, if you have an elevated blood alcohol. If your blood alcohol is going to be out there at something in the neighborhood of a 1.5 or even pushing 2, well, you're going to have some major issues with regard not only to your driving, but also with regard to whether that might be charged as a felony DUI. 3, if there's injury, if there's death, but if somebody gets hurt in an accident in which you are found to have a blood alcohol above the legal limit, you could be looking at a felony. Another reason is if you're driving obviously on a revoked license. Bad thing to be doing, but if you're found to have a high blood alcohol, that can result in a felony charge. Another reason, kids in the car. If there are kids in the car, that can result in a felony charge if you're found to be above the legal limit for alcohol when you're driving. So, what do we learn from this? Well, we learn a very simple thing. One thing I think everybody is well aware of, and that is you shouldn't be driving drunk to begin with. Sometimes you don't necessarily know whether your blood alcohol has gotten that high. But if you've got any of these factors that we've just discussed, you could be looking at a felony, you could be looking at hard prison time. Not the kind of place you ever want to go. And especially during the holiday season, when we see lots of parties, lots of festivities, folks sometimes will tipple those fermented fruits a bit much and wind up with a blood alcohol that's pretty elevated. Boy, oh boy, having a couple of kids in the car as you're driving home could suddenly turn that holiday season into a real nightmare. Okay, we're bringing you this case, we bring cases every week, so you understand how the law works. I'm David Allen.